Work with them.
Happy New Year! Unfortunately, even with the new year, the same problems exist. And no, I'm not talking about the newly engaged couple that kissed on New Year's with their mask on TV. And they were not embarrassed by it. Truth is truly stranger than fiction. Of course, some people can't seem to distinguish between the two of them anymore. Like the fact that COVID doesn't hurt kids. Really, it doesn't. The numbers back it up. I mean, follow the science, not the Fauci, I am the science type science, but the actual data. Now, unfortunately, some kids go to schools run by the blind. Or the dumb. I have no problem making fun of government school officials when they deserve it. And oh boy, do some of them deserve it. And some of them, quite frankly, deserve to burn in hell. These are the ones who have undercover pro-trans clubs that not only teach kids about it, but groom them for the trans lifestyle. All without their parents' knowledge. If it sounds familiar, that's because it happened right here in Tallahassee. Now it's happening across the country in California. And these are just the two examples we know of. How many sickos are getting away with it across the country? And you think that this crap would end at the doors of the church. But spoiler alert, it doesn't. I mean, sure, you have to really stretch out the meaning of the word church to include places that have leaders who do drag. I personally wouldn't classify them as a church, but for tax purposes, they can teach false teachings and besmirch the good name of Jesus and his actual church. Last and certainly least compared to everything we have here, we're canceling the body positivity movement, or at least the part of it that, wants to tell doctors that their weight doesn't matter in their health. Now, morbid obesity is no laughing or trivial matter, but saying that morbid obesity is, well, that kind of is a laughing matter. We're so glad to have you back in 2022 on YouTube, no less, and we can't wait to share this with you every week here. Now, Marcus, if you are not currently eating an Arby's sandwich, Arby's is not sponsoring this video. If you're not currently eating a sandwich, you want to say hi?
What's up, everybody? Happy New Year's. Good to be back. Have a great year.
I agree. Marcus, how was your Christmas?
I can't complain. I think I had a pretty good Christmas. Went on vacation. Enjoyed myself not working. Relaxed the head a little bit. Paid off social media for 6 days. And I got to say, never felt better.
That helps a lot, doesn't it?
Man, I feel like a new man.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's going on in the world, and I feel happy about it.
That's probably what we all need to do from time to time, is just, unplug from society as a whole and just enjoy ourselves with family and with community and not torture ourselves with what goes on in the world.
I do feel like a new man. I have no idea what's been going on, but I do feel like a new man.
Yeah, that's good. How was your vacation? I want to hear about it. You are my friend, and I want to know that you're in good health.
Oh, thank you. Same to you, and everybody else out there. I can always reach out and
you're cutting in and out. I'm gonna have to cut you off. You're cutting in and out. Sorry, buddy. You are definitely cutting. I am going to mute you. Okay. Sorry about that. Maybe in a minute he'll come back. As you can see, for the second show in a row, I'm in a new place without the big microphone. So hopefully this leads to better quality. But yeah, just saying, when you rent from somewhere and they don't, take care of a varmint problem, you get upset. That's all I'll say about that. So moving on to our first story. Kids in schools where they're required to be by law, and they're treated in some ways worse than prisoners. In fact, this guy on Twitter asked for parents to share the restrictions being placed on their kids in school, and let me tell you, as the headline in front of me states, the replies are heartbreaking, and they are so bad. Let's just get into this. So last week, and this is the week of December 13th, so before Christmas, last week viral video went out of a school in Oregon where kids were forced to isolate outside on buckets in 40-degree weather in order to eat their lunch. It is awful. You can Google this. It's very easy to find, and it sucks. You see them out there in the freezing cold, and it's like, it's miserable. It's miserable. But it gets worse. So Justin Spiro is a school social worker and an advocate for loosening restrictions on children during COVID, and asked Twitter to tell the stories of the rules, restrictions, and punishments that students are facing in the name of fighting COVID. So I actually checked this guy's Twitter page out, and I get the feeling that he has the right priorities, but maybe the wrong path. See, he, or at least his online persona, does seem to truly care about the mental health of kids, and how schools, closing schools are forcing these COVID restrictions, which, according to this data that we talked about earlier, these things make no sense. Can have an abject detrimental effect on these kids. However, his thesis is that having kids in government schools without restrictions is what's needed for their development and best well-being. And as we have talked about before and later tonight, that's maybe not the right case. The school system is very much broken. But that's not the point of this segment. Again, we will talk about it later. But let's take a look at some of these things. So a lady whose handle is at MGElizabethX says, sending a TK kid, 4 or 5 years old, to office for mask slips and threatening to send the virtual learning for third violation. She says, have a 5-year-old and obviously his first semester in formal educational setting, receiving an email from the school principal that he violated mask policy twice so far. Yeah, because he's 4 to 5. He doesn't need it. He can't wear it properly. If a third violation occurs, he will be forced to enroll in virtual academy online. Yes, because while 4 and 5-year-olds are great at at technology, a lot better than I was at 4 or 5, and certainly a lot better than some other people, maybe school for them at age 4 and 5 is not the best thing. We feel the school has been hostile to our little kiddo due to eloping behavior, leaving the classroom. I think they're using the policy to remove him from on-site education, which would be worse. Trying to work with the school, but has been a challenge. Have you heard of this 3 strikes policy? Marcus, were you able to hear all of that?
Yeah, I heard most of it.
What do you think about it?
I think that it's a little wrong to try to send the kid to the house because this is the first time going to school, and because he's taking his mask off. Kids don't like wearing a mask. So,
kids hate wearing a mask
while you may want them to wear them, you have to stay on them. I mean, it's a part of it that they're a kid. It's something new to them. You have to stay on them. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. You want them to wear it, whatever. That's part of their society. But don't punch a kid for being a kid.
Well, first off, kids don't have the self-masochism to keep their mask on above their nose all day, and so of course they let it slip below their nose because they want to breathe clean air. Like, people that it was normal for people to want to breathe clean air before March of 2020. But another thing, kids, and especially 4 and 5-year-olds, but kids up until they're in their 13, 14, 15, these masks that they are wearing, these surgical masks, N95K, and bless you. You just completely derailed me, brother.
I'm so sorry.
Anyways, these kids, especially at 4 and 5 years old, the masks are not made for their face. So it does nothing. These huge, wide, open gaps on the front and on the back, and it all goes out. It's not useful. But no one wants to think about that. Another thing is they get yelled at for this. Grown adults are yelling at 4 and 5-year-olds for not wearing masks. I know it sounds like I'm laughing. I am not laughing on purpose because this is awful. And it does another thing. It breeds distrust and dislike of teachers, which on the face value might not be a bad thing because, what is it that several shows ago, there was the stat that like 1 in 10 kids will be either sexually harassed or assaulted by a teacher before. It might have even been 1 in 5, which is just awful. So distrust of teachers may not be the worst thing, but it also breeds distrust of actual legitimate authority of their lives, their mother, their father, if he's in the house. It's really bad having adults yell at kids at 5 years old for not wearing a mask. Like, it's just not a good thing. You agree? Marcus?
Sorry, I had myself muted for eating, but I agree. Kids are gonna be kids, They're not gonna be perfect. They're not gonna
we shouldn't expect them to be.
Always. No, you shouldn't. They're not always gonna follow the rules. They're not always gonna do everything right. They're kids, for God's sake. They're growing up. They don't need to yell at them because they don't like the way the mask feels or anything like that. I mean, if you're gonna make them wear it, bear with them. It's so hard for them. They don't like it. It's new to them.
Just be glad they're trying, because
at least they're trying. So there's no and kids so hard that's so young who's expecting something new for the time over that small. I mean, if you want to wear it.
Marcus, I'm sorry. We're getting like every third word of yours. I hate it. I really wish we could hear what you're saying. But yeah. So yeah. Anyways, hate to cut you off there, really do, but I cannot hear anything you're saying. So I'm going to keep going. 5 minutes of recess, a lady named Melanie. 5 minutes of recess taken away if your mask slips off your nose in 3rd grade. So more on this later, but real quickly, this is a major problem with the way schools are set up now. You have an 8-year-old, boy or girl, but especially a boy, who is brimming with energy and vigor and youth. And you tell them to sit in a chair for 7 or 8 hours a day. Maybe 6 or 7 if you have a full hour PE class. But still, 7 hours in the same seat. The only other break is you get these 15 to 30 minutes to go out and be a kid, to play, to have fun with your friends. And this is the 15 to 30 minutes of recess they get every day. And you want to take that vital time away because a mask slips for an 8-year-old? A mask that's probably not built for his face, that's not sculpted for his or her face, just in general. Now, draw what conclusions you want from that, but if you believe that that is right, please don't have kids. They deserve better parents. I said what I said. And the bad thing is, if your kids have special needs, it already is much harder for these kids. But when you get into masks and COVID in schools, it's so much worse. So this is from Ari. My 6-year-old is not allowed to take his mask off for speech therapy. He can't see his therapist demonstrate the mechanics of speech. It is nearly worthless. So, first off, this speech therapist needs to be fired. Seriously, this person absolutely ignores the needs of who they are tasked and paid to help. It's lunacy. Like absolute, utter lunacy. But it gets worse. Several severely disabled nonverbal high schooler masked all day, including for speech sessions. Legally blind, but they can't wear her glasses because they fog up. Continuing on, she requires one-to-one physical assistance to access curriculum. Not possible because aides are not allowed to sit close enough. Again, they need to be fired because if they're not going to do their job, they need to go. And last year during lockdown, she had Zoom lessons, including for occupational therapy and vision. Now, how does a teacher for the visually impaired teach typing over Zoom? It's the question that she very exclamationally asked. And I gotta ask, does anyone need this explaining? Because if you do, again, please don't have kids. Marcus, Are you back where we can hear you?
I think so.
All right. Sorry to cut you off. What you think about this?
I think it's horrible. Me growing up, I had a speech impediment.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you from memories, I don't think I could have learned with a mask. So much is done by watching and by trying to replicate what other people are doing. That I don't think that's possible without a mask.
It really isn't. Keep going, buddy.
It's tough because on one hand, they're trying to take the safety in the hand, and they have to the government. But on the other hand, in order for these kids to learn, you've got to see it. You got to watch what the mouth and the tongue's doing. So I hate it. It's horrible.
I mean, these kids already have a hard enough life, right? I mean, any sort of impairment, like, it already makes your life much more difficult just to function at a basic level, right?
Oh yeah.
And so to do this is probably the most heartbreaking one so far. This is from Mama K. She says, my hearing impaired son drew this picture in October. He wears one hearing aid, and you can imagine the challenges he's faced. We went back to school in August 2020. Now, I just want you to look at this picture. Marcus, I wish you could see it. Oh, that was not right. Sorry, guys. I was not expecting. There it is. There it is. Look at that. That is sad. No more mask. I can't hear. Like, you could have stopped at no more masks. That'd still be good, but yeah, that's awful.
How do you see that and not feel heartbroken?
How do you not feel heartbroken for these kids? Like, I mean, I know my heart breaks for these kids. It breaks for the ones who are sitting outside in, 40-degree weather eating lunch because, kids have a hard time with the virus, apparently, according to Oregon officials. They do not. But, as long as the teachers are safe, as long as the mom and dads are safe, even though kids are not a vector of transmission, as long as everyone else is safe. So NYC State of Mind says, no access to the school library. Books are being disinfected at school. No field trips, no extracurriculars, mass sports in Mississippi, outdoor lunch all winter, limited water or no water breaks in class, facing one direction at lunch or silent lunch, no parents allowed in school. And every single one of these, can you imagine any one of these happening before COVID? I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that because of COVID, people have just decided to say, whatever, freedom means nothing. But can you imagine any one of these, Marcus, happening before COVID?
I don't think it would have went over so well. I think one thing that we're seeing is kind of conditioning of the kids. I think that's a possibility of what we're seeing, and seeing
to just
how much
accept it.
You learn to control the kids from a young age, and if you can control them from a young age, you can control them for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
For the rest of their life. So
I mean, they're taught to be scared of not only the world in general, they're taught to be scared of the air around them. They're taught to be scared of their friends. They're taught to be scared of themselves. And I'll talk about this in just a second. But this absolute fear that these kids, I mean, it's not just kids, it's adults, but it's more heinous because it's kids. The fear that these kids have every single day. I mean, I just don't know how kids these days live with it. There's so, I mean, well, what do you think?
What does it communists say? The best way to rule is by what?
Force.
With that and fear.
Fear. Okay. The two F's.
I mean, the force causes fear, but you're seeing both of that right now, force and fear.
Mm-hmm.
You're forcing people to wear the mask. You're forcing people to take the vaccine, and you're putting fear into some people in the population that don't do research or this or that. You're putting fear into some people. You're putting fear into kids. So you're teaching kids early to be forced to do stuff and to fear everything about everything.
Not only that it's okay to do that. That it's okay to treat people like that. That it's okay to pound fear into their hearts until they're terrified to walk outside the door. I walked into a shoe store, a big shoe store with very little people, and it's like I went back in time a year, and there was just everybody, masks, sunglasses. Some people had face visors, and these weren't old folks. These weren't the people that statistically might actually die from this. No, it was young families. It was mothers in their early 30s with kids who were 6 and 7. It's fear all the way around.
When I went to that vacation, I stopped in Atlanta, and everywhere there had a mask mandate. And I didn't even want to go. When I went in, I put the mask on. I had to walk. I wanted to walk out so fast. I went into a Best Buy. I was looking to buy a certain thing, but when I walked in, I'm so used to just being able to walk in without a mask that when I first went in, they said, "Hey, you get a mask?" I was like,
"No."
Wait, what?
You still wear them?
No. Well, here's a mask right here, and I thought to myself,
cool, you can rip it up and then pretend you gave it to me. That's how I want to be with people who want to, force masking.
But it's just stupid. Honestly, if you take away the headlines, the news, and all the restrictions with the mask and the travel, you take away all the restricted stuff and all the masks and stop covering it, you won't even hardly know coronavirus is there.
Yeah.
You'll hear about it every now and then when your friend gets it.
Yeah, but
every now and then, every shorter now and then, when somebody you know or love, or somebody you know has somebody they know, somebody's going to get it or die from it. So I mean, but you'll only hear about it every now and then. It'll go away.
Death is coming for us all, and I think people forget that.
If the news stopped covering it, we dropped all the restrictions, dropped the mask. You'd forget about it. It'd be like the flu. You'd forget about it until somebody you knew got it, or somebody you knew died from it.
That's
just
sad.
Like the flu.
And here's the thing, with Omicron being like 70 times more transmissible than Delta, you're going to get it. Wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, wearing a face mask with a shield protector and a respirator and glasses that cover like your eyes and your cheeks and like make you look like some sort of creature from a 1950s sci-fi movie, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. It's going to happen. So stop living in fear of it. It's a cold, it sniffles. There's so much data out there to say this. But it gets worse in the schools. I mean, not the COVID, the schools. It gets worse. So this one, honestly, to me, sounds very culty. So water fountains are off. This lady says, read the 9th Amendment. Water fountains are off at my daughter's school. Masks are required indoors. To get a sip of water, and this is what sounds super culty. To get a sip of water, she has to raise 3 fingers into the shape of a W. So I guess like this, or like for permission, walk to the back of the room, lower mask, sip, remask, go back to the desk. Mask required when PE is in sight. I mean, this is just super culty. And she goes on to say, I tell her to take her mask off if she ever feels dizzy or unable to breathe. And she says the teachers yell at her. They yell at her for taking down the mask so she can breathe a little bit, because I assume she's a middle school, elementary school. So like, this one gives me the heebie-jeebies. I'm not gonna lie. It feels like something cults do. You agree with me, or am I taking this one too far?
Well, I mean, the course may be a little too far, but I do think it does give me the heebie-jeebies.
Well, I mean, schools are basically just feeder programs. Many schools are just feeder programs for the secular progressive cult.
You're not wrong.
I wonder, hey, Marcus, I wonder what since they are pretty much a cult, what shape they have to make in their hands to get the Kool-Aid. Is it an O for oh yeah and bust through the window? Or bust through the wall.
Oh, dude, those are the best. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Bring me that Kool-Aid. And then they all just drop like flies.
The term cult, I think, is hot. I don't like using it until it's something, because I mean, it could be so easily. The church can be defined as a cult in a sense, Christianity could be defined as a cult, in some terms, with what we teach, yada yada yada. So I try not to use the term
cult too much.
Cult too much, because it can just as easily be turned on us. So I try to use that term in more severity. Yeah, that's just how I look at it.
That's fair. Sort of. So here's the last one. This one I actually want to go step by step, because this lady lists 7 things in order, and I have thoughts on all 7 things. So 1 says being yelled at constantly in school hallways for masks falling beneath their nose. 2, not knowing what faces of their peers actually look like. 3, not being able to socialize at lunch. 4, depression. 5, low-grade anxiety. 6, little recall of their life before COVID. And 7 is trauma. So this is a pretty significant list, right? So, I mean, let's walk through it. 1, we talked about this earlier, but a general distrust of authority, which granted is probably a good thing when it comes to government and our big tech overlords, but maybe not when you talk about your moms and dads. So 2, and this one's pretty significant. It says not knowing the faces of what their peers actually look like. So I did some research, and I found this peer-reviewed article from the website Frontiers. It says understanding emotions is crucial for social interaction. Specifically, interpreting other people's facial configurations is fundamental during social development when children learn to interact with others. So the general consensus is that something like 70% of face-to-face communication is actually nonverbal, right? Obviously, with a lot of this being in the face, and if you can't see each other's faces, how do you develop bonds? How do you develop trust? I mean, how do you tell if people are lying? Because it's so much easier to do when people can't see your face. I mean, you can't even show your passion. I can't talk to you with wide eyes and big movements of my face because I'm passionate about something, because of the mask. And kids can't do that either, and it is destroying their social progression and being able to grow in a society. Am I wrong?
No, your facial expressions show so much. For example, sarcasm, which a lot of kids in school are starting to learn and use for the first time.
Mm-hmm. That's a great example.
Sarcasm, a lot of times, is you tell by the way somebody uses their face, with the little smirk they have. But if you've got a mask, then that smirk's not there. That little smile's not there. So, something that so many teens start to do at that age, or middle schoolers, and even older elementary kids that are learning what sarcasm is, and how to joke with friends. It's so much harder to joke and have fun and have that sarcasm because you can't see the face.
No, you can't. And
I mean,
that's it's like, I mean, it's the same problem with texting. You can't have that thing. You can't have the nonverbal communication. But this is forced. You can't go find somebody in school and talk to them to get that face to face like you could if you were just texting them, because you have to wear masks, and it literally stops their mind from being able to expand in knowledge. Moving on, while essential emotion processing is evident in infants, early childhood is considered a critical period for the development of understanding emotions and emotional processing. Continuous developmental changes do indeed occur from infancy to adulthood, as the individual's social environment gradually grows to its capacity, because words are hard, capacity and complexity. So not being able to see each other's faces is going to have long-lasting effects because, again, they can't grow socially. Which kind of goes in with the next point number 3, which is that humans are social creatures. So if they're not being able to talk to each other at lunch, but that's when we were allowed to talk when we were in school. Not being allowed to talk at lunch means that, you're not going to be able to talk to anyone at all. You're going to be isolated. You're going to be alone. And that can be contributing factors to depression and low-grade anxiety.
And even suicide.
Well, yes. Actually, I have some statistics on that, and they're absolutely mortifyingly heartbreaking. So it's almost like telling kids that their world is toxic, their friends are toxic, the air is toxic, their own breath is toxic. If they take off their mask, they might die, or they might kill their family, or their teacher, or whomever. It's like it's a bad thing to tell these kids this. All over the fact that the kids don't die from this and they don't spread it. Statistically speaking, did you know, and I looked it up, these are two CDC, the next several information points I'm about to give come from the CDC. All of it's sourced from the CDC. So if you're one of those people who believe the science, this is the CDC. If their parents took them on a cross-country road trip, they are much more likely to die from a crash than COVID. In fact, 608 children ages 12 and younger died in 2019 due to a car crash. That is in 1 year. 608, just 12 and younger. 803 kids, this is still terrible, I'm not trying to downplay the fact, 803 kids ages 0 to 18 over almost a 2-year period have died to COVID. So you can see which one's much more deadlier. Also, the 12 and younger doesn't include 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds who are much more likely to die in a car accident. So if they added this in, how high would it be? Much higher than the 803. Now, I'm not saying that any death is good, but we live in a world with risks, and you have to take those risks sometimes. You do. To get around, to be in a society, you have to take risks. So it's time for us to get back to realizing that COVID is an acceptable risk that most people have to take. Or do I need to get off my soapbox, Marcus?
I think you got to realize that, yeah, COVID sucks. Yeah, COVID can kill you. But, you know, if you're that worried about it, there's a vaccine out there. Go get the vaccine. Or wear a mask if you don't want to get the vaccine. But
or live your life like normal, because that's what it is. It's endemic. You're going to get it.
Yeah, I mean, just do.
If I had the choice, I would choose neither of those.
Yeah, if you do what you need to do, what you fucking need to do. Whether you think you need to wear a mask, if you need the vaccine, no, you do you do that. You know, you do what you think is important. And don't ridicule somebody for what they doing, what they think is important.
Exactly. Me and you disagree on it, but we can still be friends. We can still talk to each other face to face, because we realize this, and other people need to. Here's the worst thing about this. Go ahead.
Just move on from it. I mean, just do you shut up about it and go. That's my thing. That's what I love. That's all I want.
So. This is also from the CDC, and this is very heartbreaking. There was a 22.3% spike in ER trips for potential suicides by children aged 12 to 17 in summer 2020 as compared to summer 2019. And there was a 39.1% increase in the winter of 2020 into 2021 as opposed to 2019 to 2020. That is horrifying. I mean, that's kids doing these things, doing all of this to kids has caused them to want to kill themselves in much higher rates. You don't have a major event like COVID, and then you don't have a major statistic like this and think the two are unrelated. When there's been lockdowns, when there's been social isolation, there's been masking of kids who don't need it. I mean, all of this. I mean, I was texting my girlfriend when I was writing the show notes for this, and I said the same thing, and that is truly horrendous. I mean, Marcus, what do you get?
Well, I mean, especially for people like me, I'm very social. I'm extroverts, in other words, and I got ADD, so I can't stand sitting in the house and doing nothing. You know, Thankfully for me, when everything started, I farmed, so I didn't have it. I took
You were
these
on the
porks into
tractor
the
all
house.
day.
Yeah, I had to work. There was no, oh, well, you got to have a 2 weeks to not work. I didn't get none of that. I had to work.
I didn't either,
Um,
by the way. I was in Lowe's
yeah,
talking to people face to face.
but, but, it would be devastating for me to not be able to talk to friends and to not be able to communicate with other people, and it'd probably throw me into depression because I honestly enjoy
Mm-hmm.
communicating with people, talking to them. And it's like even when COVID was going on and we were still scared of it because we didn't know what it was, we wanted to hang out and talk so much that you came here to my
Yeah.
barn and we ate
We ate
supper
some good
together.
old Sunnies.
Yeah,
Also
Sundays.
not
We
sponsored
ate
by
them
Sunnies.
together. No, we're not. We could be if they wanted to, but
Yeah.
we're not.
I wouldn't be
Anyways,
opposed.
no, but we took precautions when we did it. We ate 6 feet apart in the open. I mean, and that's who I am. I love to
Mm-hmm.
see my friends, and I love to hang out with them and talk with them, and
And
that's part of me.
it was
But you
respect.
take that away from kids, and
Exactly.
that's horrible.
That's horrible. And and kids can't get away. We're adults. We could decide, hey, we can do this. If we need to implement safety measures, we can do that. We're
And
adults
we
who
did.
can do this, and we did. Kids can't do that. If their parents say, go to your room, you can't talk to anybody, you can't see anybody because you might kill them. What's that gonna do? That's child abuse. That's all it is child abuse. Going to get through the end of this because this was a long segment and we have a lot more to talk about. Yeah,
We may end up having to
we have three more
skip a
stories.
segment due to this.
Yeah, we have three more stories that we're going to try and get to. It's going to go a little long. So I think this guy ended up proving an argument counter to what most of his Twitter page is about. Kids don't need to be in government schools being subjected to the hell the progressivism causes these schools to become. This cult that requires 3 fingers just to get a water. The best thing for these kids is community, playing in the park with their friends, while their parents are sitting around, socializing with other parents, and scowling at their kids when needed, but also being happy when the kid who is too scared to try the monkey bars finally gets up and realizes that it's not that bad. Community, being sociable, and parents fighting for their children is what needs to be happening to counteract this awfulness. Quick last word on that, Marcus.
I think I got everything I wanted to say.
You got it? All right. So we talked about a story, moving on, we've talked about a story like this in the Tallahassee area where sick adults preyed on a young woman's identity crisis to get her successfully, and I say young woman, a child, a middle schooler, where they preyed on this young lady's identity crisis to get her successfully to quote unquote transition and didn't tell her parents about it. It's happened again. So in October...
If I may, I don't even know if she's honest to be referred to as a young lady, honestly. She's so young, I would just consider her a girl.
Yeah, no, definitely a girl. You're 100%. A middle schooler. A middle school. They're killing these kids. All right.
A child.
All right. So in October, a shocking report claimed that teachers at Salinas, California middle school secretly recruited students into a pro-LGBT club disguised as a gender equity club without their parents knowing. The club teachers reportedly indoctrinated the pupils into accepting progressive teachings on sexuality at middle school and transgender ideology, even going so far as to coach students into changing their gender while advising them on how to hide their new identity from their parents. These kids are 11 to 14. 11 to 14. I don't even know. I can't. The amount of sickness in these people's heads. What do you? I mean, that's crazy, right?
I think it's sick. I think it's wrong, especially whenever the suicide rate is so high.
So high.
But
40%, 41%.
The thing that aggravates the crap out of me is that if everybody who hasn't listened to me yet, Gray knows this. I'm a very big person that shoot it straight across the board. If you believe it all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have to believe it. Don't change it. I hate that junk. Don't change what you believe to fit what you want in that moment. I like to believe what I believe, and I'm just that type of person. You know, if something happens and it changes your viewpoint on something, I get it. but let that viewpoint be the same across the board. If it changes due to a certain point. But stuff like right here, this transgender movement and this LGBT movement, it's supposed to be about being proud of who you are and to tell the world of who you are and about how it's your choice. But here, they're telling them or coaching them to something, trying to get them to do something they may not even want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then to top it off, trying to hide it from their parents. They get so much stuff that they're trying to say is what they're for, against doing it for yourself and to show the world and not to hide it. But here they are coaching just to try to indoctrinate these kids into some of their own beliefs.
Indoctrination. It gets worse. Yeah. It gets worse. Hold on, Marcus. Get a load of this. At least one couple who said they were parents of a student claimed that they were called to Buena Vista Middle School and where a teacher told them that their 12-year-old daughter was now a boy. According to the father, when they refused to use the daughter's preferred pronouns, the teacher called the public safety officer to the meeting. I cannot imagine being this dad. Having to choose between speaking the truth and playing along to this fantasy the teachers built for their student. And when he made the right choice of not caving in, he had the law called on him. But think of this. It's California. How hard, if this young girl truly bought into this, how hard would it be for her to get a restraining order on her parents? I can't imagine the pain and anguish that would cause. I can't. It's beyond my capacity. I do not have a child yet. I love my niece. If this happened to her, I'd be ready to kill someone. But even then, it's not my child. I can't imagine. Can you imagine, Marcus?
No.
Had the law called on me for refusing to say that my daughter is my son.
No, I can't. I can't imagine it.
It's terrible. It's awful. It's sick.
Well, better yet, what they're doing to that girl's future by putting a restraining order on the parents.
Oh, they have it. They have it. I'm saying that's a possibility.
I know, but I'm saying, like, if they do, the future for that girl, because
is low.
Not necessarily that girl, but if they do this to parents that refuse to do this and put restraining orders on it, then the future for that child just goes down the drain.
It just swirls down. Well,
because then they get thrown into foster homes,
or become emancipated and have to basically take care of themselves. So
it is horrible.
I can't, like I said, I can't imagine what it's like. This woman, who is the mother, can. Let's watch a little bit of that. It's hard to watch.
And act as if they have nothing wrong. They've done nothing wrong. A mistake? How long of a mistake? How many mistakes are we going to take before my child almost lost her life? They didn't tell me that my child was suicidal. You allowed these teachers to open their classrooms teaching predatorial information to a young child, a mindful child that doesn't even know how to comprehend it all. How do you not know what was going on your own campuses? Did you think that no parent would ever come forward? You will not quiet me today. I will stand here today and protect my child along with every other child who has not come forward yet. Do they have psychiatry degrees that I was unaware of? Because I didn't hire them. Okay, I did not hire them to sit there and nitpick my child's brain. You took away my ability to parent my child. Even before I had any knowledge. I didn't even get to show support. You asked for support, I didn't get a chance. You planted seeds, Miss Caldera and Miss Baraki, Mr. Baraki and you, Miss Tagarin. Your job was to educate my child in math, science, English, etc. Do your job and let me do mine. They assumed that my child needed your aid and resources. They pushed it in the face. And tonight, I will stick up for her. Miss Caldera, you're guilty. Miss Baraki, you're guilty. You changed her personal documentation, her gender, her name, her email. I authorized an AKA added to her attendance because I wanted to be supportive. But guess what? She's allergic to bees. Her medical record says a birth name, and you changed it. Who administers that now? Not everything, not me. You guys did this on your own accountability, and you've gone too far. They downgraded me in front of my child and allowed me to question myself as a mother. You sat there and told me how my child was going to be. And then you wrapped your hands around her while I sat across the table and cried. Because you thought you could be there better than I, and I never got a chance. She was scared to even say anything. Your guys' voice were heard, not hers.
Can you believe people accused her of fake outrage? Really? Can you believe that people accused her of acting there? I mean, that is not fake outrage. That is not fake acting. For that, you got to go to, CNN or something when they're outraged about something. Now, that was a woman hurt and broken to her core. That was a mother hurt and broken to her core. That was someone who was lashing out at people who had taken her child away from her because they could, and they hate her. They hate what she stands for. There was a mother lashing out at someone who had put her daughter's life in danger in multiple ways. That is the sound of a mother in distress because she has no earthly recourse to undo the damage to her daughter and get her back. And like you can see it. You can feel the anguish in the words she says. Good on her for standing up. Thankfully, she's not alone. She has some people to report her. A man related to the girl also spoke, saying that the teacher telling a girl she's a boy is just vile nonsense. I think education needs to be grounded on truth. We need God back in America. We need God back in schools. I just feel that our kids are impressionable at that age, and we should keep the parents informed. I say resign or repent. I'm merciful, so is God. He's not wrong. But until they do repent or resign, you have to keep your child out of their clutches. You got anything on that, Marcus?
I didn't see the video, so.
But could you hear it?
No, normally I can, but I couldn't hear it this time.
Okay,
so I kind of sitting there hoping everything's going all right in my head.
Yeah, but, you can go back and watch it, and it really is heartbreaking. I sit here and I have goosebumps every time I listen to that because she's just hurting so much. And the problem is that these teachers love this. The teachers love this. They love sinking their teeth into young kids' minds. More and more we see these liberal teachers on TikToks and other social media sites saying they love when their kids ask about their sexuality. They love these conversations because they seem so loving and tolerant. They care, you see. These teachers, these liberal teachers, they care about you more than those mean people who, want you to live in reality and not against it. See, those people, the conservatives, the evil traditionalists, they hate you. They want to hurt you. And I mean, we know that this is not the case. But sometimes we do, not everybody who says they're a traditionalist, but most of them, they want to love on these kids. They do. But the narrative has pushed these kids so far away from these people who want them to live in reality. And it's hard because sometimes when you're right, you have to be stern about it. That doesn't mean that again, that you don't love them or you don't want what's best for them. So here's the thing. I was spanked growing up a lot. And every single time I was in the wrong. And my parents had to teach me the right way and made sure it stuck. So they paddled me, and I'm a better person for it. 100%. I'm a better person. And I understand they did it because they love me. Before you come after me, I'm not saying every parent's like that. Sometimes it really is abuse. But when it's done with measured discretion and out of genuine love, it is a good thing. But they don't get the chance for these kids don't get a chance to understand that people who want you to live in society or in reality, that they love you. And they really do. They have love for you, and they just don't want you to try and kill yourself because you're living outside of actual reality. And last thing, I am not saying we should go around paddling LGBTQ kids either, so don't come after me. Marcus, do you have anything before we go to drag queens and church, pulpits?
I have to agree with the paddling thing because I was a fairly bad kid. I mean, I don't even. Well, in hindsight, not really, because never went to any parties and got drunk, never did any drugs. But my biggest thing is I was very bad at back talking. I was a very.
Oh no, I
rude
never
kid.
would guess that, Marcus.
Yeah, but I was a very. I talk back on. I was very rude. I was a very rude kid, and sometimes I thought what my parents did were harsh, and looking back at it, I wouldn't want it any other way because I wouldn't be the man I am today without them doing what they did.
Exactly.
So I like to think that I'm a good Christian man. I like to think that I do things the right way. Sometimes I like to pray for what I do, and I like to try to treat everybody with respect and love, and try to be the best person I can be to everybody. And I feel like that, if I was just let loose and didn't get spanked or get punished, then I could be a brat who you look at and say, "Oh, he is a."
You'd probably be in jail right now, and I probably would be in jail right now.
I'm glad I had somebody to put me in check, which were my parents.
Yeah.
Because there may not be anybody else that could have.
Well, unfortunately, with schools like they are, and kids don't understand that people who want them to live in reality love them. Moving on, in a decent world, or really just relatively decent to the one we're living in right now, children could get away from this trans madness by going to church. But we don't live in a decent world. We live in a morally depraved world. And even in some churches, and again, I use that very loosely, even in some churches, kids cannot escape this madness. Such as a Lutheran church in Logan Square in Chicago area hosted a drag queen prayer time for kids during their Sunday service this past week. And for the love of everything good, in my 25 years on this earth, I never thought I would have to say that sentence. I want to be kidding. I wish I was kidding. I am not kidding. This is happening. So a drag queen took the pulpit, spoke to the congregation, then left the pulpit and invited children to sit at his feet as he read a book about joy. A sick adaptation of the drag queen story hours libraries have been hosting the last few years, and I have a lot to say about this. And I'm probably going to rant a little bit, Marcus, so why don't you go ahead and say what you want to say before I get into my little spiel here?
What in the world?
It's not of this world, it's demonic. Let's just go ahead and put that out there.
I mean, this is not a real church as far as Christianity goes. I mean, God says to love everybody. So I mean, even if somebody's messed up in the head, I still love them. But you don't go around in churches letting this parade around. I mean, if they're new to, if they're like new to church and they just got there and you're like, okay, yeah, we got to save them. But like, for God's sake, letting them be in the pulpit.
I know.
And
in the pulpit.
This, oh my God.
I know, it's bad.
This is horrible.
This is
I mean,
awful.
the fact that it's in churches is the worst part, because it's not just the liberal media stuff anymore, the liberal parts of the country. It's the liberal parts of the country there, but it's now starting to infiltrate churches.
Well,
I mean, I thought the porn star preacher and his wife was bad enough, but a daggum
a drag queen
pulpits.
Well, so here's my thoughts on it when I originally read, especially this sentence where it said that the drag king left the pulpit and invited children to sit at his feet.
That's kind of
well. Hold on. I don't know if there was any conscious irony going on through this sick man's head, although I'm sure the demonic presence whispering into his ear, I don't think the irony was lost on them. But this is a truly twisted take on the story in Mark, where Jesus tells the disciples to let the children come to him. There, Jesus blessed the children and taught them the way that they should go and showed them the path to the Father. Here, this drag on human morality blessed them by norming them to a lie, an especially insidious one, teaching them a path that leads to death, one that leads straight to eternity in the lake of fire, right next to the father of lies. And I'm sure this is all done in Jesus' name. A quote from him. And I decided, instead of telling you, this is how I want you to be joyful as we prepare for this dress rehearsal, I figured I would instead put on a dress as so many who have inspired me have done. I decided to follow their examples. This is a direct quote from him. I decided to follow their examples, showing that liberation from oppressive laws clears a path for joy. And I don't even know where to start there, Marcus. I do. I have it here. But, I don't know where to start. The fact that objective reality is part of oppressive laws, the fact that every cell and every speck of your body is encoded with your DNA, making you male or female, and that liberation from that it generally leads to death. Or how about as an active leader in your church? And I use that, again, loosely. You have been inspired by drag. Now, I know a lot of pastors. I know a lot of good pastors. I've had good pastors. None of them has had RuPaul as an inspiration. My dad's a pastor with lots of friends in the profession, and I bet every paycheck I make for the rest of my life that none of them are inspired by drag queens. What about you? Do you know of any church leaders, legitimate ones, that are inspired by drag queens?
I don't know a single person inspired by a drag queen, much less the leader of a church.
Except other drag queens.
Well, I don't need a drag queen, so...
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't really... Go ahead.
I don't know. There shouldn't be a church leader that looks up to a drag queen. If you look up to a drag queen or king, whatever they're called, I don't care.
Drag queens.
If you look up to that, then you shouldn't be leading a church.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You should not. That should be an instant disqualifier. But there's more. I don't know what to say to end this part of the segment, except that I hope that one day you come to your senses. And I'm speaking directly to this guy, even though he'll probably never see this. I hope that one day you come to your senses, repent, become saved, and then work to undo the damage that you have done to these kids. I really do, because I wouldn't wish the fiery pits of hell on my worst enemy. That being said, if you don't, I hope that your spot down there is particularly toasty. But he's not alone. He is not the only pastor in the past month that has gotten renowned fame for doing drag. Now, it's not as quiet as... Okay. So another pastor decided to do this on an HBO Max special as a drag queen. That's not quite as heinous as doing it from the church pulpit, but still. So Craig Duke was relieved of his duties as lead pastor of Newburgh United Methodist Church on December 1st after he performed as a drag queen in the HBO series We're Here. Now, if that's not enough, Duke is 62 years old. That's right, he's 62 years old, married, and has somehow been a Methodist minister for 30 years. His wife, Linda, resigned from her position as pastor of youth ministry, so yay. Thankfully, they're out of there. And then Duke, what happened was Duke appeared on a November 8th episode of the show. He was shown preaching to his congregation about love before transitioning into singing Kesha's song, We Are Who We Are, with drag mother, whatever that means, Eureka O'Hara, according to the Christian Post. And this is again, a time when the enemy twists a vital teaching of ours. You just said it, that we must love one another. A vital teaching into something perverted and vile. Am I right?
Yo, you're right.
I love hearing that. But here's the craziest part, Marcus. You ready for this? Are you ready? He was not fired. So United Methodist Church came out with a statement saying, Craig has not resigned, nor has he been fired, as these are not actions that are consistent with our appointment system. While there is diversity of opinion regarding the moral implications of Reverend Duke's actions, he has not been found to have committed any chargeable offenses or other violations in the United Methodist Book of Discipline. So Marcus, you are, I'm a Southern Baptist. You are a Pentecostal, right?
Yes, I am.
Am I someone to bang on other denominations?
Say what now?
Am I someone to make fun of other denominations? Have I ever joked around about? I mean, I have a little bit, but have I really like been super mocking on anything about the Pentecostal church? Because no, I've been to church with you, right?
No more than a casual joke.
Yes.
Oh, I couldn't understand what you guys said at some point in the sermon or something like that. But it's no more than a friendly battle between churches. Like my girlfriend's family is Baptist. I have a lot to joke with them about. Oh, well, y'all didn't even stand up during church today, did you?
So you can say I don't have a super bias, right? But if this was a Southern Baptist pastor, I would be calling for his head on here. And I'm calling for this guy's head on here, even if he's from another denomination, from the church that I usually attend. So United Methodist Church, please do the right thing and keep him away from any more impressionable minds. And yes, I get the irony of someone who calls his show the Canceled Misfits Show calling for the cancellation of someone else. I get it. But when you come to people's heavenly and eternal futures, you know what? You should get canceled. That's a cancelable offense. That's it, Marcus. I think I'm going to cut this short because it's been an hour. I enjoyed this episode, even with the depressing subject matter.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I always enjoy it.
I always enjoying having you, buddy.
I don't think it's as much canceling this pastor as it is trying to make sure he does his obligation as a pastor to the church.
Teaches from the Bible.
And his job. Now, I mean, if he wants to be popular for whatever he wants to do and manage to do that, then yeah, that's on him. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to not making him popular, kill his popularity. We just don't want him to teach young minds the wrong thing about the Bible and God
and trans issues, because that's a big thing. All right, Marcus, thank you so much. This has been the first show that we have a live stream to YouTube, and it was so much fun. It always is with you, Marcus. It's always so much fun doing this. I'm glad you came on. I love you. I love you guys in the audience. Come back next week. And go do something that the left will cancel you for, because you're probably doing the right thing. Have a happy new year, guys. I will see you next time. Awesome, buddy.